Hey YouTube, I'm Blaze, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to win any match of heroes vs villains provided the teams are fairly balanced when you're playing on the light side, and I'm going to do that by telling you the hero counters for each hero so you can learn how to avoid those heroes and play safely around them, and therefore you can actually get a better understanding of how you take each encounter. Obviously you need to be a good player, but given that, you should know how to work around your enemies to maximize the impact you have and hopefully end up winning that game. Now this will tie into the second video I'm going to be doing, which is the villain counters, and in order to really maximize it you should probably look at the villain counters as well, so even when you're playing on the light side you know who you counter when you're playing as, let's say, Rey. Before we get started, it would really help me if you have subscribed if you haven't done already. Let me know in the comments what video you want me to do next, and also the YouTube algorithm's been doing some weird things lately. Leave a like on the video. And without further ado, we're going to start off with Luke, whose counter is Vader. Now the reason for this is, or one of the reasons, is that as soon as Luke finishes an animation, be it his repulse, his push, or his rush, Vader can immediately force choke him and then lightsaber throw, which deals a lot of damage. Obviously also, whilst Luke is doing the repulse, etc., he can also throw his lightsaber, and whilst Vader will take the hit from the force push, he will also hit Luke with his lightsaber, which actually deals more damage. And of course Vader will completely destroy Luke in a swing spam or in any kind of fair duel without abilities being taken into account. Vader will always win because of his health and lightsaber damage, and he'll win by a really big margin as well. Rey's counter is Vader for two reasons. Vader's got a very strong block, so even when Rey's surrounded by teammates, Vader can hold that block, even whilst Rey charges through him and mind tricks him, which is really good. But also Vader will beat Rey in a 1v1 swing spam, so he actually has high damage and high health, and he wins by a decent margin again. And moving on to Anakin, whose counter is also Vader, and this is for the reasons that Vader can actually hold his block whilst Anakin is holding in the heroic bite whilst he's trying to pull him, and obviously Vader can hold that block in front of a bunch of teammates. I've said it before for Rey. And also Vader can also use his force choke when Anakin tries to move up on people, because Anakin doesn't actually have any movement abilities, which means Vader can just stop him in his tracks and deal a very high amount of damage with the saber throw as well. And Vader will also win in a 1v1 swing spam with Anakin, which is also actually quite surprising as Anakin's DPS is very high. Now on to Obi-Wan, whose counter is basically the hero who has really high DPS, which means he can deal with Obi-Wan in a 1v1, but it can also negate all of his abilities with a lightsaber block, as all three of them, defensive rush, all-out push, and his mind trick, are countered by blocks. And so I would say Dooku with very high DPS works the best here, however Vader could also work as well. And now on to Yoda, whose counter is Grievous for a few reasons. Firstly, Yoda's block can be countered by Grievous's claw rush, as Grievous's rush will just go straight through his block, which is actually one of the most powerful blocks in the game, so having a counter to it is very useful. Also, Yoda's dash actually goes through blocks, which is very annoying as a lightsaber hero. However, with Grievous, his unrelenting advance will actually still deal the damage if Yoda rushes through it, which is also very useful. And obviously Yoda's trying to get away, and now he's got a speed buff, can be countered by Grievous's thrust surge as well. And then as topping on the cake, Grievous does have a lightsaber block which can be used to block Unleash. And also on top of that, Grievous's DPS counters Yoda's health buff, as really as soon as Grievous starts slashing at you, you're dead no matter how much health you have. Now Chewie, Han, Finn and Leia don't particularly have any hard counters, however any competent lightsaber user is usually pretty good at dealing with them. However, the person who actually really shines here is Kylo Ren, because Kylo doesn't actually have to close the distance in order to get to these heroes and therefore take damage whilst he's doing so. He can actually pull these guys towards them and freeze them before they can actually shoot him, and then he can immediately just use a frenzy on their back, which deals a lot of damage, and then quickly finish them off with a couple of strikes. And that is a wonderful combo which is almost guaranteed to deal with pretty much any blaster hero, even from full health. So if you're playing as these guys, you really want to watch out for Kylo's pull and freeze. Finally, we have Lando, whose counter is Iden. Now whilst these guys have practically the same DPS, Iden has a higher rate of fire, which means in a practical situation where you're aiming, she will actually get off more damage. Not only that, but her stun actually has a faster recharge and does damage on top of that. But what really counters Lando is actually Iden's personal shield, and although not a popular ability, it is actually very useful with dealing with Lando, because as soon as Lando throws down that disabler, you can pop a shield, and when he inevitably stuns you, which most Landos do immediately, you'll have your shield up so you won't take those 10 shots to the head which will get you to half health. Instead you'll have the shield up, then you'll be able to take him by surprise shooting through the shield, and you're basically going to get off scot-free. His smoke is countered by your secondary fire, which means you can fire down at the feet somewhere in the smoke, and even if you can't see him, you are actually probably going to hit him. And lastly, when he uses his sharp shot ability, you could pop that shield once again and negate that 200 damage. Anyway, that's going to round up that video. Make sure to stay tuned for my villain counters video, which will be coming out soon. And once again, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment and a like. Bye.